ABC, how's it going? Right, okay, I thought I'd make a quick vinyl update video, stuff that I've been buying and listened to over the last few weeks. This is what you can hear in the background. This is something I picked up last week. This is Abdul TJ's Rakoto. The album's called Kankakuru. It's on the Rogue record label from 1989. I didn't know anything about this guy at all, so I just came across it in a shop and a bit of a blind buy really, I suppose. But yeah, just reading up about him a little bit. He's originally from Sierra Leone, but I think sort of relocated over to the UK quite early on. And I think he made a few albums with UK musicians in sort of around the mid-80s. So this is obviously mid to late 80s, where sort of African music was becoming more prominent, certainly in the UK and also around the rest of Europe as well. But yeah, us music fans, we're a little bit snobbish, aren't we? And I think he probably suffered from that. It's because he was UK based and originally working with Western musicians. I think his music was a little bit overlooked. Perhaps didn't get the critical acclaim that it deserved. But yeah, I played this quite a lot last week. It's a lovely record, you know. So yeah, I'll be looking out for anything else by him as well. So cool. Right, okay. This one's a bit of a funny one because it's not a new purchase. I bought this about 5 years ago at a car boot. I think it cost me a £5. It's in great condition. Yeah, this is Santana Caravanserai. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, but the reason why I'm showing it is because I listened to this for the first time a couple of weeks ago. I've always had a bit of a problem with Santana. Yeah, a mate of mine had that album that came out about 2000, Supernatural, the one with Smooth on it, you know, the thing with Rob Thomas. It was a massive hit, played all the time. But anyway, a mate of mine, Saint Dave, he used to play that album all the time. Whenever around his house, he was playing that album, you know. So he got to a stage where I wouldn't go to his house anymore, and whenever I meet him now, I meet him in the pub. Purely because I'm pretty sure if I went to his house now, he'd still be playing that bloody record, you know. So yeah, so that put me off Santana for life. So I thought, yeah, this album is very different to what I expected. It's more of a sort of a jazz rock fusion sound, as opposed to that classic sort of Latin fusion thing that they have going on. Yeah, partially instrumental, some vocal tracks as well. I just think the album works perfectly as a whole. It is you know, an album that stands alone. You know, it's quality from start to finish. So if you haven't heard it, which I'm sure many of you in the VC already have, I'm a little bit late to the party on this one. Definitely 1972 and all that. But yeah, great album. Right, okay, and probably tying in with that quite well. This is I was down in London a couple of weeks ago. This is an album by a band called Melting Pot. The album's called Fireburn Cauldron Bubble. Also a little bit of a jazz rock fusion in places, a little bit bluesy in places. I basically came across this band, and the only reason I recognised the album cover and the name of the artist was I bought a compilation album. It's called What Is Funky, I think it was. I think it's 4 CDs. And just lots of obscure funk stuff. I think it came out probably about 15 years ago, and one of the tracks on it was by Melting Pot, and it was a cover of Feeling Alright, the Traffic song, and that's been covered by Paul Weller, by Lulu, Joe Cocker. You know, it's a great funky tune in its own right, but yeah, this band do a great version of it. I think they only released this one album. This is a reissue from the 2000s at some point, but when I saw the cover straight away, it sprung to mind what it was, so I picked it up. It was only cheap, only 6-7 quid, something like that. But yeah, definitely worth picking up if you see it, or even checking it out online. Right, okay, from the same shop as well. As I say, it's a music and video exchange. Aretha Franklin, Almighty Fire. Now, whenever we talk about Aretha, she's got this great voice. She made those wonderful records on Atlantic, so late 60s, early 70s. You know, the albums Lady Soul, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You, Younger Than Black, all that sort of stuff. But nobody really talks about her late 70s stuff. Now, she made a record with Curtis Mayfield in 1975 called Sparkle, which is a great album. And this is the second album that they made together. This is from '78, so it's called Almighty Fire. Again, every track written by Curtis, produced by Curtis, and you know yourself, whenever you hear a Curtis Mayfield song, it doesn't matter who's singing it, you know that it's a Curtis tune, just the style of the songwriting, and it's the same here, but you know, her voice complements the song so well. So yeah, I've seen this around before, never picked it up because I've always been a bit put off thinking it's going to be a little bit too disco-y. It's not, it is a soul funk record, so definitely if you do see it about, once again fairly cheap, I think I paid £3 or £4 for it, and it's in great nick. Yeah, Aretha Franklin, Almighty Fire. Right, okay. Actually, just talking about soul music, this is what I've been reading. I just finished this book. This is called Detroit '67, The Year That Changed Soul by Stuart Cosgrove. Best book I've read for a while, best music related book I've read for a while. It basically goes through 1967 on a month by month basis, talking about Detroit. So the music from Detroit that period, so the MC5, all the stuff that was going on at Motown. Obviously, I suppose the massive change in the Supremes during that year, the sacking of Florence Ballard. You know, they became Diana Ross and the Supremes, just all, you know, everything that happened behind it to get to that situation. But I suppose most interestingly, that describes the social and political issues in Detroit during that year, the race riots and the events leading up to them, which is absolutely fascinating. So I picked this up for £3 for one of these discount bookshops, the Works I think it was. Yeah, so if you see a copy, definitely recommend it. Right, okay. A new record, this came out earlier in the year. This is Joseph Lindberg, Astral Progressions. I think, well, he's a trumpeter. He's part of the group of musicians that work with Kamasi Washington. Actually, I think Kamasi Washington appears on this as well. Yeah, I ordered this back in February actually, and for whatever reason, Amazon have only delivered it over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, when I ordered it, I'd seen reviews of it basically describing it as a candidate for Album of the Year. I'm not convinced about that, I must admit. It's a bit of a mixed bag in the sense that a chunk of the album is instrumental, but woven in between those instrumental tracks are vocal tracks, and they're pretty much straight soul or hip hop tunes, which I don't think work particularly well. I think if you're going to do that, you've got to have the tunes to do it. The instrumental stuff on here does work though. It's got a real good feel to it, a real good vibe. The playing's great, production sounds good, really works, but it's those vocal tracks that put me off, so a bit of a mixed bag. So I'd be interested to see if anybody else has picked that up, but yeah, great cover art. Okay, also when I was down in Greenwich, I mentioned going into the music video exchange. I picked up a few albums from a market stall there. This is Scritti Politti, 4 A-sides. This is on Rough Trade from 1979. This is, for those of you that know Scritti Politti as that very polished 80s almost soul band, stuff like The Word Girl, you know, Cupid in Sight, the album. Yeah, this is before that. This is very much a sort of angular post-punk record. Still got those distinctive vocals from Gringart's side, but it is a very different sound to what they became in the 80s. But yeah, still the music's great. Really pleased to pick this up. Yeah, I was really pleased to come across this. Not something I've come across before. I've seen it online, but never come across it, and it's pretty cheap as well. So yeah, very cool. But I played this quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, so yeah, cool. Right, and I also picked up 2 reggae albums from the same seller. Alton Ellis, Still in Love. This is 1978 on the Trojan Horse label. Trojan Horse label, get it right around. Alton Ellis, one of the great reggae voices. Actually, saying that, I was playing this the other day, and my wife says, "You know what? I don't actually like Alton Ellis's voice." What? But there you go. But yeah, but it's yeah, a great album. I've only got stuff of his on CD before, so I didn't have any of these tunes. Well, these versions of these tunes on vinyl certainly. Stuff on here like Breaking Up. So late 70s version of Rocksteady. I'm Still in Love, of course. Yeah, nice find. Really pleased with that, and it's in great condition. And another reggae record, another big record that I didn't have previously, Right Time by the Mighty Diamonds. Very famous album cover that. Originally came out, I think, 76. This is a pressing on Shanachly Records from 1983. Actually says jacket made in Canada, so I don't know if this is a Canadian pressing, I don't know. But I say originally on the Virgin Frontline label. Had a few of these tracks on the Frontline box set, which came out early 2000s, but never the whole album, so really pleased to pick that up. It's in great nick as well. Right, and I picked up a couple of 45s from a charity shop, which I paid a couple of quid each for, and I sold on eBay for quite a bit more than that, so I was able to buy these 3 albums with that cash. So first of all, this is a Nigerian Afro-funk album by a band called The Apples. Not the Apples who covered Killing the Name of. This is, say, 1978 Nigerian band. I enjoyed this, but I was a little bit disappointed, I must admit. I thought it was going to be closer to Afrobeat. It is more soulful than more straight songwriting than a funk record. It's nice, but not something I'll be playing a lot. But yeah, interesting listen. This, on the other hand, is, if you're going to buy one African album this year, I'll probably say this a few times this year in different videos, but if you're going to buy one African album this year, make it this one. This is a reissue of Geraldo Pino and the Heartbeats, Let's Have a Party. 6 tracks, absolutely faultless. It is funky throughout, just a brilliant record. I showed a couple of his 45s that had just been put out by Soul Jazz Records in a couple of videos previous. Actually, those 2 45s contain 4 tracks that are on this album, but it doesn't matter, you know, for the other 2 tracks it's worth picking up. But yeah, 6 tracks, so all in all, I can't say this enough, definitely worth picking up. And again, a great cover, look at that. So I should have talked about this from the beginning of the video, not at the end, but there you go. Right, okay. And finally, Lloyd McNeil Quintet, Washington Suite. This came out 1970, spiritual jazz, originally a private press. It was reissued by Soul Jazz Records, I think about 2007-2008, and this is a reissue of the reissue, which is a bizarre concept, but there you go. Glad they did it. I only came across this a couple of years ago when it showed in the VC. Sorry, I don't know by whom, but yeah, I saw it in the VC, and that's what piqued my interest. But yeah, a really nice record. The first couple of tracks are really quite funky, and that's what I suppose attracted me to the record. But I say it's a spiritual jazz album. Yeah, very nice, and a lovely pressing as well. Cool. Cheers.